Hello class, it's Professor Streeter. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the expectations for the online ethics class. My expectations of you and what you can expect from the course. So we'll also look a little bit at the weekly tasks, the nuts and bolts, week by week. Okay, so what I have is a slideshow, and I'm going to share that with you here in the video, but you can also look at the slideshow. There's a link to it in the D2L shell for the course. I'll put myself up in the corner so we can view the slideshow together. And as you can see in the first slide, I'm emphasizing the fact that we are in a philosophy course. Ethics is an area of philosophy. Philosophy means, in Greek, it's a Greek word, love of wisdom, love of knowledge. So we are going to become, together, lovers of wisdom. And one way to think about that is we are going to be focused on thinking. I'm not teaching you what to think or what to do, but the goal of the course is to get in the practice of thinking critically about what you think, how you act, in dialogue with others, in dialogue with me, in dialogue with your classmates. So this is a course, the expectation of the course is that you'll do some thinking of your own, that we'll do some thinking together, really thinking through, working through questions and problems that maybe you've considered before, but we're going to think about them more carefully together. Okay, so now one way to approach that is through this idea of accountability, right? To really care about my thinking and to be more critical about my thinking and to be a lover of knowledge and wisdom, I have to strive anyway to be a little bit more accountable for what I think, which means being willing to explain why I think it and how I came to that conclusion. So really that's our goal overall in this course. Learning together how to become more accountable to each other for what we think, how we act. Okay? So that's the big picture. Specifically in terms of sort of skills that we'll work on, learning how to become accountable to your thinking has to do with focusing on arguments, the arguments that you're making, the arguments that other people are making. So we'll learn together how to make arguments, how to read and respond to the arguments that other people make. And becoming more accountable to your thinking is also a matter of trying to be clearer in the way you use your words and express your ideas, trying to be more consistent in your beliefs, in your decisions, in your commitments, in the actions that you take, trying to avoid inconsistency, and trying to get as clear as we can about how we express ourselves in language. Okay, so that's what I mean by accountability. I'm more accountable to my thinking. I'm more of a lover of wisdom and knowledge. The more I care about the arguments and defending my position with an argument, the more I care about other people's arguments and really understanding where they're coming from and why they think what they think. And the more I care about clarity, being clear in what I say and being consistent. If I strive for all of those things and I learn how to do those things better, I become more accountable. And that's really the goal of the course, okay? So what are we going to do week to week? Well, we're going to do some reading, right? Part of thinking is having something to think about, and that's what the reading is there for, to give you material to think with or to think about. So aim for about 50 pages of reading a week. This course schedule and the reading assignment is up there on the course schedule on D2L. I'll talk a lot about reading in this class and we'll work together on this, but reading is an active process where you're engaged in a text. It's not passive. And so one way to think about the activity of reading is it comes in stages. And so the first stage or the first read, you're sort of skimming and trying to get the bigger picture. What's the main argument? Where do they start? Where do they end up? What are some basic concepts and principles that are at work in developing the argument? So I would encourage you on the first read to take some brief notes, but then go back and on the second read, do a more careful analysis of the argument and take notes in a notebook, or if you like to take notes by typing them into a Google Doc. Just keep track of what you're reading and what you're thinking about as you read. Second part of our our work together, our tasks together. It's an online course, but I want to recreate some sense of a classroom, both in a discussion forum. So there'll be weekly posts in the discussion forum. And then each week, and I haven't set the schedule up yet, it won't be during the first week of our class, but starting in the second week, I will schedule meetings on Google Meet, and you are invited to come and participate in a conversation, talk about what you're writing and what you're reading, and there will be some shared Google Docs that we'll work on together in the virtual class. If you can't come, you can work on those Google Docs on your own time. I understand that this is a traditional online class, but I want to encourage you to attend the weekly live sessions. So that's a big chunk of your grade, the work that we do in the virtual class and the discussion forums on D2L. Then each week, well, every other week, I'll ask you to write a reflection in response to a prompt that I'll share with you, having to do with the reading, but giving you a chance to engage actively in bringing some of your own experience and knowledge to the reading and writing about that. Those reflections will be due in the week that they're assigned by Sunday of the week that they're assigned. And I have very specific expectations and requirements for how to produce those pieces, those reflections. So they have to be written in a Google Doc that you share, that you can click in the share tab, general access to anyone with the link, and give editor access to anyone with the link, so that I can see your writing process, comment on your writing, and we can have some back and forth feedback on the writing process and the content of what you're developing in those reflections. Okay, so I'll explain how to do that in another video, but if you know how to use Google Docs and share editor access, then you're all set. Okay, so then in addition to the weekly discussion forums and weekly online or virtual classes and the homework assignments, every other week there will also be a reading quiz. And here the idea is to, so the homework gives you a chance to develop your own ideas in response to what you're thinking and reading. The quizzes are really more geared toward making sure you're doing a careful job of the reading. So they're multiple choice questions, tracking the basic structure of the argument in one of the readings. So each quiz will focus on one or maybe two of the readings. Okay. Now these are timed, and on D2L you'll have a half an hour to complete the quiz. Again, they're multiple choice. Obviously you can look at your book while you're taking the quiz, but I encourage you to do the reading and take notes on the reading before taking the quiz so that you have a basic understanding of the argument. Again, the quizzes are assigned and in a given week, and you have until Sunday to complete them. And those are staggered. So the weeks that you have a homework reflection due, there typically won't be a quiz, and the weeks that you have a quiz due, there typically won't be a homework assignment. Okay, so that's about 50% of the grade: the discussion forums, the homework, and the quizzes. The other 50% focuses on the 2 essays that you'll write and 2 exams. First, the essays. Again, I want to emphasize the process of writing. So I'll ask you to write drafts and revisions in one Google Doc, and I want to sort of observe the process over the course of a few weeks and see you revising and developing the ideas. You will get credit for both a draft and a revision of the essay, and you'll actually get homework credit for doing other parts of the essay, so like an introduction or a proposal. But this portion of the grade, I'm going to be assessing and commenting on the full draft in the Google Doc. And so the first essay will be due around the middle of the semester, and there'll be a specific prompt that you'll respond to. The second essay is due at the end of the semester, and there I'm inviting you to choose a topic of your own. an ethical issue that really matters to you, or an ethical problem that you want to explore in more detail, based in part on something we've read for the course, but here for the second essay, you have an opportunity to bring in outside research or outside sources to support your argument. Okay, again, for both of the essays, the main idea, the main focus for me is to see that you're going through a process of developing an idea, that it has an organic life to it, and that you're and it's becoming clearer, and that the structure is taking shape over time. So I'll assess the revision and the final draft, and the final grade is based on the best versions of the essay that you write. Okay, so you have an opportunity to keep revising and revising and revising and making it better, because that's the goal, to become a clearer, more consistent, more accountable writer. Okay, and then finally the exams. There will be 2 of them, and I haven't settled exactly on the format, but typically these are short answer questions based on specific passages in the readings. The midterm will just cover what we read in the first half of the semester, and I will give you a list of readings to focus on for the midterm to prepare. And the final exam will focus on readings from the second half of the semester. Like the essays and the homework reflections, everything has to be written in a shared Google Doc so that I can be granted editor access, so that I can review or kind of see the writing process as it takes shape and give you feedback based on what I see you doing in the writing process. Okay? So those are the main assessments and sort of how I will be assessing you and assessing your progress as a thinker, as a lover of wisdom. And ultimately your grade will be based on my assessment of these different components. Okay, a few tips for success, how to approach this course. So as I already mentioned, get in the habit of taking notes when you read. If you have questions about what you're reading, keep track of those. Share them in the discussion forum, or email me, or talk about those questions or raise those questions during our virtual class. If you have any doubts about what to do, I'm pretty good about posting announcements on D2L and sharing the content of those announcements in your PSC Gmail. That's how I communicate with you, not through your personal email, only your Prairie State email. So make sure when you write to me or send me something, it's from your Prairie State account. So if you have a question about what's going on, first check the D2L announcements or the content page in D2L. I'll share another video sort of explaining how to navigate the shell for our D2L site. If you can't find the answer there, check your email. If you still don't know what's going on, then you email me directly. That's fine. Okay, or set up a time to meet with me in office hours. I'll get to that in a moment. There's lots of writing for this class. I want to say right up front, don't worry about perfection. That's not the important thing. Just turn things in. Turn your essay drafts in early and get feedback. Turn your homework reflections in, even if you don't think they're finished. I'll give you some feedback and you can get better at them over time. Okay, we're looking for what the goal here is, to become better at writing, better at reading, better at thinking. And the only way to do that is by letting those thoughts have a life out in the world, including turning in your writing. It's an online class, but you're going to get more out of it and be more successful if you open up. If you just be yourself, share as much as you can of yourself, right? Okay, we all have different ways of sharing and opening up. We all hide some things, that's okay. But whatever you're comfortable sharing, bring that to the table. It's an ethics class. It's a class about how we live, right? What it means to be human, essentially, and how we live together and how we want to live together. Okay, so the more we know about you, right, the more we can have interesting conversations about ethics. Okay, share your ideas either in the discussion forums, or if you're attending the weekly online, the virtual classes, or send me an email, right? Or get in touch with classmates and interact with them. Or if you're on campus and you know who's in the class, talk to each other on campus, right? Okay, so I'm encouraging that. Now, we are going to have the weekly virtual meetings on Google Meet starting in week 2, and I encourage you to attend those. You'll get more out of the class, and you will be able to develop more as a thinker. If you're having trouble making the times that I've set up, let me know. Maybe we can try to arrange other times. If there's no times that work for you, then come meet me on your own time virtually, okay? So I have Calendly office hours. I can meet you on campus. I can meet you virtually, one-on-one, and we can talk. I will require some office hours over the course of the semester to talk about your essay, but I encourage you to sign up for office hours to talk about anything, especially if you're not able to come to the weekly meetings. I suggested earlier, try to get connected, not just to me, but to your classmates, however that makes sense to you logistically, or whatever you're comfortable with. But the more you connect to your classmates, the more successful you'll be in a class like this. And then lastly, avoid using AI. I know there's a lot of AI tools out there that are easily accessible. And for example, if you're using AI instead of Google as a search engine just to find out some information or some basic facts, that's not a problem. But I'm talking about generative AI, sites or tools that generate content for you and help you read or write your own ideas. That's what I'm discouraging. Don't use it. I know it's out there, it's being marketed to you. It's not going to help you become a better reader. It's not going to help you become a better writer. This is a course where the focus is on being accountable to yourself, to others for what you think and how you think. AI can't help you do that, right? AI just kind of offloads it. It's a way of letting a machine do the thinking for you. And so if you do that, you're not going to get anything out of this class. So that's what I have to say about that. Okay. That's all for now. Hope that was a useful video. There'll be more. Looking forward to working with you this semester.